can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Aha! Well, here we are. When I say here we are, I've got sitting here opposite me is Sue Stanley, OAM, because Dr. Ben Fordham has still got Don on a special assignment. It's a very, very important assignment, and we're not sure, as I sit here, I'm not sure how long this assignment will take, if ever, because sometimes assignments can take forever, and people make them take forever because they get funded by the government. Not that Don's getting funded by the government, oh no, but so we just can't. And Ivan, who is now, I think he's successfully, Sue, sailed down the Nile. He has dodged the fracas that's going on between Palestine and Israel, Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and Jordan and anyone else that wants to throw rockets at Israel.
Is he having a good time?
He's having a wow of a time. I don't know if you've ever been to the Valley of the Kings or over there, but you can be templed out. You can be templed out if you stay too long. There's only so many temples you can look at in a week or a furlough if you go over there, but it is fantastic. And he went into the pyramid, into the big pyramid, I forget what it's called, the big pyramid, but he went in, and it's very claustrophobic when you go into the big pyramid.
I'm guessing you've been in, have you?
I have been in, and you've almost got to do a Groucho Marx walk in there. You got to sort of squat down as you walk. You know, I'm one of the Shickle group of sisters, and you get in there, and it's very claustrophobic. And if someone actually, which was always a thought in the back of your mind, if someone closed the entrance, you are where the pharaohs were. You are actually entombed, and you become, I think it's called a sarcophagus. You become a mummy. You would be a mummy in there. You wouldn't be a mummy. You might be a mummy.
I'm glad. The thought that would go through my mind is that hope no one breaks wind in such a small confined area.
And a very good point too, Susan. Yes, I'm not sure they've got air vents in. I don't think they made allowance for air vents when they built
very
them
embarrassing.
2,000 years ago. Break wind. I like that. That's the medical term for farting. Well done. And now that's true. I never thought of that. Imagine if someone actually had some, and the food. Could you trust the food over in the Hotel Cairo?
Oh, no.
And if it had a little bit of Indian over there and
curry in a hurry.
Curry Luxor. Luxor is a town there where you start on the ferry, on the Sun God 5, you go up the Nile. I think the Nile is the only river in the world that runs from south to north. I think that's
really.
I think that's a fact. I stand corrected. But if you'd had a curry Luxor before you
chicken one or
started, and you got a bit tight in the purse as you entered the large pyramid, and you were in the shaft going down into the room where it opens out, and you can all stand there and sing Kumbaya and hope you can all get out again. If someone had a loose bowel and actually did break wind, it'd be horrendous. It'd be like nerve. It'd be like, you know, that not onion gas. What is that gas called that smells? You know, and I can't think of what it's called.
Anyhow, you can't blame the dog either.
You can't blame the dog. You can't blame anyone. You could blame the guide because maybe
Was it me?
Maybe they just do it. And imagine if I know that we don't do this. Not we don't do it. But imagine if someone lit it. People light their own when they break wind. What would you light your own fart for? Because it's butane gas, isn't it? It's gas. You wait, the government will stop us farting shortly because they'll say it'll be bad for the environment.
Well, the cows do that, don't they?
They do, and they say that's why they're trying to. The beef industry is on the decline for the climate activists because they want. They don't want methane to come out the bottoms of livestock, you know. And in France, we did this on the podcast last year. They put diapers on them, big cow diapers, so they don't shit on them. You can look that up. When I was here, most of the people I did this podcast with said I used to make things up. I said never made anything up. It was always on the news, or you could always access it on the Google machine. So how did I get onto that? Because you said, imagine if you farted.
Well, we've gone
in
to
the
Ivan, so
yeah,
Ivan's not here.
No, I was going to say.
Ivan here, Don's not here.
Oh, yeah, what was I going to say? But, I was talking about food. Well, so we weren't talking about food, were we?
Well, not first off, but we did get to the curry.
Yeah, that's right. So, Ivan's not here. Dr. Ben's fortnightly contributor, and this is the off week, so it's you and I.
Yeah, but there could be someone exciting coming up. Maybe. But we can't let it out yet.
Yep. No.
Not as a guest. Not as a guest.
Not as a guest.
No. May be able to be another support crew for you.
Really?
Yeah.
This is something we haven't gone over. Not that we go over it. Who's it could be?
I'm not going to devolve now. No.
Really?
I'll let you think. What were you saying about food? Nope.
Well, you're going to spring.
You're tired tonight. You're tired.
You're going to spring someone in here as a contributor, are you?
No.
All right. Well, now I'm going to do the shout outs first because people. Sometimes we forget to do them because Dr. Ben said, don't do the shout-outs first, get onto the substance of what you talk about. And usually it took us an hour to get onto the substance with the other bloke who used to sit over there because he used to go off on a tangent. So we're doing the shout-outs because we're doing them first up. Now, I saw Matt. Matt is a Sparky, which is an electrician, Sue.
Is it?
Matt the Sparky, he listens. He bailed me up didn't bail me up, but he saw me in the car park and he came over and I was parked in a 15-minute zone and he had a uniform on. I thought he's going to book me. This is a park inspector and he tapped on the window. And I said, yes. He said, I'm Matt. I said, yes. He said, love the podcast. I said, it gave me a bit of a relief there. I thought I was up for $500 fine. So he said, I'm a Sparky. And then in the same car park, a different day, but a bloke called Aaron. I said, Aaron, that's your name, is it? He said, yes, it's a bloke. Well, it looked like he was in a uniform. Like
identified?
No, he was definitely a bloke because he was a glazier. You know, like does glass
man.
work.
Glass man.
Glazier, and he's Aaron, E-R-E-N. He said hello. He listens to the podcast. And then I've neglected to mention these people. I think you might have been with me when we met Steve and Sally, because Steve and Sally had said they had been to Between Friends.
Oh, that's right, yes.
And he said, I love the podcast. He said, and we went down to Between Friends, which is that bar, swingers
bar
club, when you go in and then about 10:30 you get the kit off and you look at everyone's bits and pieces, and if you want to just get into the revelry of merriment upstairs, seriously get into it, you go up some stairs and... I think you have to be a member to go upstairs, and then you really get into it upstairs. They have bondage shit and stocks and whips and fucking... it's extraordinary.
Well, funny enough, though, I actually asked him, I said, did you engage in any activity? He said, oh, yes, I did.
Oh, yes. He said, we've been married
excited.
Quite a while. He said that put a new extra dimension on the wife and I's love life. And so there it is. So there is a need. He said, what was disconcerting, is that downstairs, we went because we all went just as a just in research purposes. Downstairs at about 10:30, when people have had a couple of sherbets and they've loosened up a bit, they do get the kit off, but they stand around, with it all swinging in the breeze and the women's breasts hanging onto their knees, and because old really sort of mature people.
But you chickened out.
Oh, well, because no one taken the gift.
You were waiting and waiting.
Well, we left at 10 o'clock before 10:30 arrived. Well, so what was disconcerting is that it's more conservative if you're downstairs between friends, or best friends, what's it called? Between friends. But when the revelry and the rooting and everything starts upstairs and people swagger down just to get a drink, come down the stairs, well, Jesus, then you see there's women coming down, their hair's everywhere and their makeup's all over the joint, and blokes are coming down and they're fucking got stuff leaking out of them, and they go to the bar and people stand right back. Hey, but, you know, it's it's a nice mess there at the bar when the people come down just to get a drink and go back up. All the more conservative people, mind you, who have got their gear off, but all the more conservative people stand right back when they all swish down from upstairs. Christ,
you and Mr. Bravado, you're this big man blowing his chest up, and you put your tails between your legs so quickly and ran out of there.
I did.
10 o'clock came, they said they get the gear off. I reckon it was 10 to 10. You ran out that door.
Yeah, and if you'll remember, I said, Sue, if we're here for research purposes and people are getting the kit off, would you get your kit off? And you said, my word, I would. I said, oh, I'm glad, I hope you bought some clean underwear. I said, because that'd be embarrassing. Oh, no, it wouldn't be, because you take your clothes off.
Exactly.
You stand. Yeah, and keep a bit of a laneway for the people who swish down from upstairs, because they've got crap everywhere. So anyhow, that was Steve and Sally. And then, so we get on to Mick Christian about the caps and caps. Oh, no, there's just a steady demand for the caps. You cannot be serious. I'm not sure. I think he might have run out of T-shirts, but if you place an order with Mick, he's giving, wait for this. This is, how could you beat this deal? He's giving you a free stubby holder. It's got a picture of the man who's on special assignment. A picture of him on there, and there's a picture of me on there. We might have to get a picture of you on there if the man from the special assignment doesn't come back. So he's giving a free stubby holder with any. No, it sounds unreal, doesn't it? But they're $10. The stubby holders cost 5 cents to make, I reckon. But anyhow, so they're going for $10. But he's giving them away if you buy a hat. I'll seeing as I'm mentioning. I've just speak while I get my phone. Where is my phone?
How many days is it to Christmas? Is it 32 days to Christmas? So it's come up pretty quick. So I reckon I'll buy one of these for my dad. I'll get him a T-shirt so I can get a stubby holder. That will relieve me. Do you buy
get
Christmas?
him a cap. I'm not sure if he's got stubby holders. But you could easily get on to michaelchristianmenswear.com. He will tell you, and this is what he's done. You've got
to place your order in before Christmas, because obviously it's coming up.
It'd be a rush. An Australia Post who posted a letter at the end of 1998.
Posted a letter.
I posted a letter at the end of 1998, and someone rang me up the other day and said they'd just received it. So it's going well, Australia Post. Now, this is from Michael Christian. Now, I don't know if he's taken the piss, but he said, a shout-out, please, for Robert Albanese. Bob Albanese. Wouldn't be Anal.
Cousin, could
Anthony
be a cousin.
Albanese. From Robinvale. Do you know where Robinvale is?
Out Shit Creek.
What's that? Robinvale's up near Mildura.
Is it?
Gee, the weather. I'll tell you why I was in Perth in a minute. Did I tell you I was in Perth?
Really? No.
Robert and all the farmers from Sunraysia area have listened to the podcast and they like it. There's only 4 orders. So they love it, and Mick is giving us away stubby holders for any order, free stubby holder. You just cannot beat that. I mean, it's Black Friday. Is it Black Friday sales on at the minute in the stores? Well, Mick's got a Black Friday sale of giving away a stubby holder. That beats getting a lounge suite half price or a car.
Have you got stubby holders on the boat? You can get some for your boat. I can get some for you for the boat.
You get
That'd
some.
That'd be a Christmas present for you.
There you are. You get on to michaelchristianmenswear.com and order a brace of stubby holders. No, you get them for nothing. You have to order about 50 caps. So that's Michael Christian Menswear. And Kate Save, Be Fit Food, got tremendous specials on Kate Save. Very good food if you're looking to be fit and healthy. And she was looking for contestants for a reality. Oh yes, a reality challenge show. Not sure how that's going, but Kate Save, Be Fit Food, still going great. We are an investor in, so a small investor we are, just because we like to put our money where our mouth is. And now, and I'm giving this a special shout out to Peter from Prestige Car Clinic, the Prestige Car Clinic. He's in Port Melbourne, and I had the occasion to take a car down there because something had malfunctioned on it.
What type of car was it?
It was an older car, and the roof had ceased to operate. It stuck up. It got halfway shut, and it was sticking up perpendicular into the air. And he said, "Can you bring the car down?" Well, did I look like a nice goose driving the car with the hood half up? People thought it was, they were filming for a reality show, and I'm sort of trying to put a hat on and some dark glasses, and they're pointing, saying, "Look at this clown." And I say, "No, the hood's stuck up, mate. Sorry, do you think I'll be driving like this?" And luckily there was a slight zephyr blowing, just a slight zephyr, a sort of a smallish trade wind blowing off the bay. Had there been a gale, it would have ripped the top of the hood off, and then I would have got the shits. Don't worry about that. Anyhow, I got it down to Peter of Prestige Car Care Clinic. He's in Port Melbourne. And if ever I had to recommend anyone to look after your car, he was excellent.
Was he?
He is.
He is.
So I'm giving him a shout out. Peter from Prestige in Port Melbourne. And there we are. And I'm also giving a shout out to. They wouldn't be listening. They'd be on their honeymoon. They're going on their honeymoon. I won't tell you where they're going because people Vietnam. But they are going on their honeymoon.
Can't tell you anything, can you?
No, you can't. So that's James Brayshaw and Lisa. I don't know her name. Nee, when they say she's now Lisa Brayshaw, but Nee. They say N-E-E, not K-N-E-E.
Yeah.
I should know what her former name was. Anyhow, James and Lisa got married in Perth, and I went over for the Stetford over there, and it was fantastic weekend. And I don't drink, as you mightn't know that, but I haven't had a drink for 18 years, and it is absolutely entertaining as the night and the days wear on. People who become more alcoholically propelled come and speak to you. That is entertaining in itself, just watching the deterioration of people's sense of what they're talking about and where they are and what they say to you. All very good. I'm not disparaging any part of it. It was fantastic. The people were great. There was a cavalcade of sporting stars there. All the cricketers, and the great Dennis Lilly was there. And
was he?
Yeah.
I heard that you made a friend over there, an acquaintance that you have not been that friendly with.
Hello. Okay, who?
Well, were there that many people that you had disagreements with over there?
Not the who?
Gillan?
No, turn it up. So Gillan McLaughlin. So Gillan McLaughlin was the host, compere of the. No, I didn't speak to him, and will never. And never, unless he comes with his cap in hand and says, "I'm so sorry for throwing you and Mike Sheehan and Don Scott under the bus about discussing why Nicky Winmar lifted his jumper up." And I'm glad you got onto that, because we said if Winmar, I'm going to say this again, Don used to roll his eyes up when I'd say this. I don't know why he rolled his eyes up, because he got fined along with me and Sheehan. I'm glad you mentioned that, because... we said at all times that if Winmar said that's what he lifted his jumper up for, that's what it was. We said that, but the overwhelming majority of the people at the games thought it wasn't about that at all. And the penny dropped. I went on a bike ride with Gary Lyon and his partner, Nicky.
Did you have little training wheels on the side of your bike? That would have been a sight to see, riding a push bike.
Starting to annoy me. See, you're going to get me really annoyed shortly. No, we went on a bike. So we go over to Perth, and Nikki, who is Bill Brownless's ex-wife, and Bill was there with Gary, and they get on great, and everything's fine. So It's good to see. It's good to see that.
Interesting mix, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's good to see that you can
forgive and forget.
That's it.
And move
on, and everything like that. So
that's what you should do.
Shut up. So Nikki, and this is Brownless. Nikki, I don't know what her name was either before Brownless. So Nikki, who's Gary's partner, she'd never been to Perth, and I said, I said, what you should do is get on a ferry and go from Perth down the Swan River to Fremantle. And Gary said, what would you want to do that for? I said, well, Gary, if you haven't been to Perth, you can see all the great houses and all the identities and personalities that live along the river. It's very interesting. All the marinas and all the... He said, don't be stupid. I said, all right. I said, well, why don't we go on a bike ride? He said, why would you go on a bike ride? I said, Gary, you're going to just stump yourself up in the Crown Casino Hotel here, and you're not going to do anything, are you? He said, no. Well, he said, bike ride. I said, come down and get 3 bikes and we'll ride. And there's a reason I'm telling you this. We're going to ride, go for a ride, and Nicky can take in some of the sights of Perth. All right, he said. So we get the bikes and we ride over to Optus Stadium, where they were setting up for Coldplay.
Really?
Yeah, heard of Coldplay?
Yes.
Very good friends of Shane Warne's. They were
were.
the Coldplay boy. It was it turns out we had tickets to go to Coldplay. I didn't go to Coldplay.
Did you buy tickets, or you just rocked up there and
no?
they'd just seen
Someone
you
someone had bought some tickets and couldn't go. Anyhow, I didn't go.
Why didn't you go?
Because we'd just come back from Rottnest Island, one of the recovery days over at Rottnest, and besides, I wasn't fly-blown because I wasn't drinking. It was a late day, and Coldplay. I'll leave Coldplay to the kids. It was fantastic, they said. It was fantastic. Why am I telling you this? Because we rode past. I'm getting on to why I've mentioned this.
It's a long story.
Well, you keep interrupting. We went past Optus, and as I turned, the penny dropped as to why we were thrown under the bus about discussing Winmar, because there's a statue of him, that iconic photograph that liar, the photographer, liar, what's his name, Wayne Ludley, he lied about us, Don and Mike and Sheehan and me. He lied, and we sued him, and we got compensated for him lying about us. But anyhow, that iconic photo of him pointing to his chest, and I've suddenly realised why Mr. McLaughlin threw us under the bus, because if it had been generally accepted, which we didn't say it was, but if it had been generally accepted that it wasn't actually about his skin colour, it was about the fact that he was overweight and he had guts, then the rush to judgment about putting that statue up would have been meaningless, because it wouldn't have, people would have thought, well, it wasn't about what it was meant to be up there for, it was about his overweight. So that's, the penny started to drop about why we were thrown under the bus to appease his own white guilt about what he thinks is going on in the AFL. And as for speaking to him, he would never ever, will I ever speak to that man, because he used a cheap trick to throw us under the bus. And I keep saying this because I had, and I'm part of the podcast, you cannot be serious, I wasn't at the game, had no input into it at all, and yet I got labelled and branded and slagged as a racist and woe, and wait till we get on to Black Lives Matter. I don't know if you've ever heard of George
I have,
Floyd.
yes.
George Floyd, they did $2 billion worth of damage to America by the riots when the copper killed, well, they said he suffocated George Floyd, and I said on this podcast, this is why I got sacked from Channel 9, they don't say I got sacked, but I did. On this podcast, they were talking about Black Lives Matter, and they were talking about George Floyd, and I said, well, it was a disgrace how he died. I did say that. I said, but he's a piece of shit, which he was. He was a piece of shit, and it's just coming out now how they suppressed all the stuff about George Floyd when the inquest and the people got charged. He had been arrested 8 times. He had had 2 heart conditions when he was found, when he died at the hands of the policeman. He had had 2 heart conditions previously. He had had lethal traces of fentanyl in him. He'd had COVID. He had COVID at the time. A year before, he was arrested for exactly the same thing. He said that he couldn't breathe. He is a drug dealer. He had been arrested by a black officer originally. They said it was a white supremacy thing. He had tried to pass counterfeit money at a convenience store. He had been convicted of 8 crimes, aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. He'd had a home invasion where he stuck up a pregnant woman with a knife. And this heralded the birth of Black Lives Matter, which is a completely bogus criminal organisation, a domestic terror organisation, and it spread over here, and you had suburbs over here had Black Lives Matter flags up, and they'd painted murals on eulogising Black Lives Matter, an absolute hoax and a disgrace. And that's what we said about George Floyd. How did I get onto that? Oh, because Black Lives Matter was...
Because it was Gillen.
That's right.
On your bike ride.
That's
over at
right.
Racial.
Correct.
In Perth.
That's correct. We were thrown under the bus for just the most disgraceful court case, the most disgraceful piece of legal nonsense ever. So I didn't
your
make
bike ride was good?
Yeah, so the bike ride was good, and that's what reminded me of it, because the statue was up, and if it was general knowledge that actually wasn't what it was about, skin colour, oh, well, geez, it would have been a waste of money from putting that up. So don't worry about it, I didn't make a friend at all. So seeing as we're on this, Sue, seeing as we're on this sort of theme, if you wonder why Ian Cook, who stood for the vacant seat of the Premier Dan Andrews... Mulgrave, he stood again to see if he could be a representative, an independent representative, and he didn't win, but he did very well again.
Extremely well.
Yes, how well?
I think it was about 40-something, mid-40s percent, yeah, and I think the winner was 53 or something, 53, 54.
Well,
so, he did very well.
And we had Rowan. I can't mention Rowan's surname because he was dressed in a clown suit. He was the Rowan Wen, and he stood on the corner. So it was a success, if you can call losing a success, but it was a success what Ian stood for. And if you wonder why Ian Cook, who won his court case about being defamed and illegally put out of business by the Andrews government for I Cook Foods when Community Chef, the government organisation, took over them by planting evidence, if you wonder why he won the case but didn't get financial restitution, look no further than the way the legal system's going here. There's 95 high-risk people have been released back into the community. Some terrorists, some criminals. They've released them because they said it was against the law to incarcerate them indefinitely until their trials come up. So they're back on the streets. 95 seriously dangerous people. This is the law that we're dealing with here. And then have a listen to this. There's 109 times a number of boys ranging from 13 years of age to 16, they have been arrested 109 times with and charged with 171 counts of aggravated burglary, and they have let them out back onto the streets, and they've been arrested 109 times, the same group of people, and they keep releasing them, and they're the people that keep damaging your cars, graffitiing them, stealing them, setting fire to them, and they let them out onto the streets. So you wonder why Ian Cook couldn't get compensated when you've got a legal system which is completely nobbled and completely nobbled by woke, patronising people who keep giving citizens a third, fourth and fifth chance to actually redeem themselves and do something constructive. If you are, there's an old saying, a leopard never changes its spots. They just get bigger or smaller. And those people have no chance of being rehabilitated. They should...
Something's got to change, because even in the system, they've got the enforcement officers in the hospital with these young kids on a 24-hour watch for 4 or 5 days until they recover. They go to court and then they get out on bail. So why are they babysitting them in hospital?
Why are they? If they're in Iran, you know what they do in Iran?
No.
They'd take them into the public square, they'd get a huge birch and they'd belt the living shit out of them. That's just for a start, and then they'd put them back in jail. And then they'd bring them out again the next week and they'd just say, we're having another dose of this.
Harsher penalties,
Yeah,
there
well,
should be.
that's the basis of that. So people will now
But it
get
is a
onto this podcast and say, oh, Sam Newman said we should flog people out on the streets, young kids. No, so, yeah, if you think that's what I'm saying. I'm just using it as an example. Sue City, Sue. Is it easy to see through the hypocrisy and the grandstanding and the virtuous pandering and signalling of what you're on about? Do you remember last week we mentioned a bloke called Greg Andrew?
The guy on the hunger strike.
On a hunger strike.
In Canberra.
In Canberra, because he was trying to draw
hungry?
attention. Is he still hungry? He was trying to draw attention to the Prime Minister Anal about climate change. And he said, I'm going on a hunger strike, which means I presume if you go on a hunger strike, you don't eat. And then the knock-on effect of that is that you expire and they just take you down to the morgue and then they bury you. Well, he's dropped out. He's
eating again.
He's become a coward. He hasn't gone the whole... He's eating. He said, no, I got too peckish, and they had a photograph of him gorging himself at McDonald's, didn't they, or somewhere?
At a cafe with
a
cup of coffee and a sandwich.
With a latte and a sandwich. Oh, Greg.
With his legs crossed in a nice, comfortable position.
That's right. Well, what a piker. Why didn't he just go on with it? And then we'll all go to his funeral. Well, why wouldn't you? What's the point of that?
But did he get a meeting with Elbow?
What? Because he was thin and frail because he wasn't eating.
So if you're going to do a cause and go that harsh, you'd want at least a meeting with the great man, isn't it?
So that's how you get a meeting with the Prime Minister.
But it didn't
go on
work.
a hunger strike. Fair income. I'm amazed. Why didn't he just go on with it? If you're going to do it, do it. And then we will say what a fantastic effort. He actually gave his life up for the planet. Speaking of the planet, this is how the globalists tell you they're trying to take over. So Taylor Swift, you heard her?
Tay-Tay.
The Swifties.
Tay-Tay.
She is probably nearly going to rival Elvis Presley as the most extraordinary performer, as in popular, but no one will ever rival Elvis, no matter what you say. But Taylor Swift cancelled a concert in Rio de Janeiro because the temperature, wait for this, got to 51 degrees.
51.
51, and she quite rightly and responsibly said she wasn't going to put the health and safety of her fans under question, and she cancelled the concert. She said she just, because someone fainted and died of heat exhaustion or something.
It's a good reason to cancel it.
It is, and she could have gone on with it, but she said, no, I'm not performing, and I don't want my fans to be under risk. And they said, well, this was extraordinary, the temperature, and then they said the rainfall that happened. They've never had so much. That the rainfall was an example that. I'm watching this thing. Something's going on with the computer. Anyhow, I'll push on. There was an example. They said the heat and the rainfall was an example of climate change and global warming, and they said there'd never been as much rain ever since 1945. Now you think about think about the illogical nonsense of that. If you're saying climate change is on and global warming's on, and there's never been as much rain ever, except since 1945. So why was there that much rain in 1945 when global warming and climate change wasn't even on the horizon? So you just make it up. There's been temperatures climbing and climbing. Why have they been climbing? Because your cows are farting, or because you're using gas in your stove, or driving a car? What is that? William Kinninmonth here said, climate change or global warming is driven by solar flares, the moon, the activity of tides and wind. He said the inclination of the earth, if it just tilts a minuscule degree, all this other crap people just make up. People glue themselves to the road. So they say you shouldn't be driving an electric car, or you shouldn't be driving a car. It's and we cop it. We don't cop it. And if you can say that, the climate's gone mad and this is the greatest catastrophe since 1945, well, fair dinkum. So it was going on then. The climate does change, and the global warming, it gets warmer and colder at various periods. And we are fair dinkum.
I just think we've got too many people on the earth. I think there are just way too many people.
I reckon that's it. I reckon we should start culling. Right, let's start with the...
Good on you.
Which suburbs will we start
Holy
with? The outlying suburbs, so that people don't have to drive their cars in. Let's start with that's right, the lower socio-economic suburbs, see if we could just cull them out and just have the high flyers and the... la-di-das, that live in the leafy suburbs. Let's just start culling people. I reckon that's a good idea. So who would go out, Dermot Brereton would like to not cull people, but he's a very good...
Huntsman.
Oh, he's a huntsman. He's got he shoots
Serious?
pigs. Oh, yes, wild boar. And that's...
And he eats it.
Not sure that he eats it. There's only so much wild boar you can eat. But he's doing a service to the country by killing wild boar. They're in plague proportions, like kangaroos.
And rabbits.
But they eat rabbits. Rabbits.
How's your girl going down the Beaconsfield Parade? Is she
Speaking
still
of
there?
rabbits, no, she's gone, hasn't she?
Well, I think there's someone else taken up on my strip this morning.
Oh my God, is that right?
Yep.
Okay.
And he's got a solar panel, so he's got solar, so he can obviously charge
so
his
he's
battery.
just camping on the footpath. Well, he's got a solar panel.
Yes.
That's extraordinary.
He's got everything.
Well, you better get a big garden hose and hose him away.
So the houses along there roughly, minimum of 4 million, probably up to about 8-10 million, and he just camps there for nothing. Just seriously.
Well, yeah. I think the council should come and...
I did find that
so
very amusing this morning.
we do feel for Sue. Let's just say
Absolutely.
we feel for people who are homeless, but you just must ask. This is where the community service people must provide. Would you like me to tell you when I was thinking of running for the Lord Mayor? I got Bob Maguire, the late Bob Maguire, Brendan Nossel. Nottle.
Salvation.
Nossel was the
Nossel.
Justice of the Peace. Nottle. And
Who's the other one? Les Twentyman.
Fancy forgetting Les's name. I know Les, like he's my father. Nottle, Twentyman, and Maguire. And I said, why don't you approach the state government or the local council or the mayor of Melbourne or whoever, and take over a disused warehouse and make it a refuge for genuinely homeless people who can't camp there indefinitely, and you can't have freeloaders coming in and just getting cheap accommodation, but a properly run refuge for homeless people, a zero tolerance attitude of people sleeping in doorways in the city, not allowed to do that. Clear them out, give them a place to stay and see why they're homeless and go from there. Rather than getting people to drive at 30k, now they're trying to get people because irresponsible people speed on the roads, and people who come from other countries and new licence holders have no idea how to drive, no idea, can't hardly read the road rules, can't hardly read the signs, and there's the road toll is going up, and there's horrendous accidents, but it ain't it's because we are such a big country, and people out in the country roads drive for hours and hours to get to one town. If you drove for 5 hours or 4 hours in Europe, you'd go through 3 countries. Here, you just go from one town to another in the same state that you're in. And that's why people drive too quickly and they lose concentration. You have heavy transport on the roads and they get tired and they just use drugs and all that. And yet they're trying to nobble the rank and file people who just drive properly, but they want to have 40 kilometre an hour speed limit in almost everywhere. Except out in the roads.
30. I think there's a request for 30 around the Fitzroy area. So it
is impossible to drive a car at 30k. It is impossible. And it is only a way to balance the budget. It is a complete and utter fraud, a money-making concern that if you drive at 35, you'll be fined $500 and 4 points off your life. It is a disgrace, and people put up with it, and yet they let 95 high-risk people out onto the streets. They've had 175 aggravated burglaries by kids. There's people doing a whole lot of different things, and they're trying to raise money by stopping motorists. You can't drive a car at 30k. It is impossible.
Or your cars, you can't. The older ones.
Well, the newer ones... that's the point. The newer ones, which go much quicker and have much better performance and are made to drive reasonably quickly. You cannot drive a new car at 30k without keeping your eye on the speedo, therefore taking it off the road, so that you just have to keep watching it, because if you go at 35, bang,
done.
You're done. At 35, you can. I think they do the 100. I think the sprinter, what's his name?
Car racer.
Bolt.
Oh,
you saying Bolt runs at 35k, doesn't he? He can run past a car driving at 35k on the road.
But it is an interesting point why we can't have a zero tolerance in our city of homelessness, because there is a country which is very surprising. In Vietnam, in Ho Chi Minh City, they have a zero tolerance of people sleeping on the streets.
That's right, and they give
they can do it.
And they give them, I presume, an alternate place, or
Absolutely.
They have a refuge.
Put them in.
Yep. That's it. Well, we'll get that. We'll go down and get that bloke out. We'll actually steal his solar panel for a start, so he can't.
That's very clever.
So he can't use his cooker or
mobile phone, charges his phone.
That's right.
God love him.
So what were we talking about then? Greg Andrew, who's a fair dinkum, the piker, didn't starve himself to death. He's just up and
day 16 he started shutting down.
Day 16. So speaking of food, we've got a fair bit to cover here. So speaking of food, Big Mac. Have a listen to this. This is a third world problem. Imagine having this problem over in where the war-torn cities of the world. Big Mac sued Hungry Jack's because Hungry Jack bought out a hamburger called Big Jack. And Big Mac, the McDonald's people, thought that was too close sounding to a Big Mac, calling it a Big Jack. And people might be confused when they go to a fast food store and see Big Jack up there, even though it's got Hungry Jack sign and everything. They might think, shit, I wonder if that's a Big Mac or it's a Big Jack. I'm going in because I think it might be a Big Mac, but I've gone in and I bought a Big Jack and I've been deceived. And they said, Big Mac, McDonald's sued Hungry Jack's for calling their hamburger a Big Jack. And the court said, this is why I'm mentioning this, the court had let me read this out. The court appointed, where the fuck is it? A scientist with a PhD in analytical chemistry to go and see if the Big Jack, they said, was 25% bigger than a Big Mac. And they got a scientist with a PhD who went round the country to 500 stores checking the size of the burger in a Big Jack as opposed to a Big Mac. You think I'm making this up? And they found that while they didn't fine Big Jack for trying to imitate Big Macs, they said that's bullshit, no one would be confused by that. Big Jack said that there was 25% more meat, or whatever they put in their hamburgers, than in a Big Mac. And the analytical clinical chemist with a PhD who went around the country on the public purse investigating all this said, no, they weren't 25% bigger, they were only 15% bigger. So they sued them for false advertising, but they let them off the fact that they were trying to replicate or fool people that a Big Jack was actually a Big Mac. Can you believe this? I'm
just interested in what he went around the country with a tape measure. So he went into everyone and measured his teeth.
We should get him on. I don't know what an analytical chemist who has a science degree, a PhD science degree, I suppose he takes a little set of scales around, does he, and weighs them. Buys one. He's bought 500 hamburgers around the country and he weighs them. But you have to buy 1,000, about 500 Big Macs and 500 Big Jacks. And take the meat out.
Well, if they're bigger, they'd have to be bigger in diameter, so therefore it'd be bigger in size.
Or thicker.
Well, they'd be taller, wouldn't it? Yeah, bigger.
Thicker, yeah.
But they wouldn't be 20%.
I don't think they'd make the buns bigger. They'd get the same buns. A lot of people's buns.
So it'd be 25% heavier. People's
buns aren't the same necessarily, but in food terms, the buns come from the same. Some people's buns are huge.
No buns.
They're really big buns. But anyhow, I think the buns probably come from the same factory that supply the... And I think the burgers were thicker, but they said they're 25%, but they're only 15%. So it was a sort of a win-loss thing for a Big Jack. So that was that. And speaking of food, again, will I do this now? Excuse me.
I don't know that
I belched in. Sorry about that.
You burped.
I burped, but lucky I wasn't in the pyramids. I'm going to speak more about food because I'm going to do this. Close this off now. I'm going to speak about, and you are too. I'm going to run by. I don't make these up, but I'm going to run by. They said the 20 most useless kitchen items you could buy, and the reasons they gave. And when you read through them, you think, yep, that is absolutely correct, because they say, the people who did the survey say, while there might be some value in some of them, the seldom times you would ever use them, and the space they take up in your kitchen, you'd have to build a whole new kitchen to fit all the implements and things that they say are useless that you'd use once in a year. And they say they're pointless, a waste of money, and we're being conned. Well, you're being conned, if not you, Sue. But if you buy them, you're just throwing money, good money after bad, or bad money after good, or whatever that term is. And then we'll get on to sport. Okay. I've got the World Cup final.
Oh,
have I got cricket. To just? You can't. It was fantastic. But the television...
Are you doing it now, or are you doing it
I'm going to do it now, because we're coming back with that. And then I'm coming back with an extraordinary... This is a bit like the Big Jack and the Big Mac thing. They've found... I won't do this now, but I'll just tease it. Scientists found that there's a star out there... Wait for this, Sue. 100 billion... 100 billion, you can look this up, 100 billion times brighter than the sun, and they've just found this. How's it taken that long to find it if it's 100 billion times stronger than the sun? Anyhow, and you've got to see what the people have called it and what the people who are investigating it. And if you wonder why we're driving at 30k and letting felons out onto the street when you've got this going on the other side of the world, it puts the whole world and what people do for a living into perspective. So we're ringing off now, Sue, and we do have a very good guest coming in, a guest who plays a sport that is not big in Australia but huge in America, and he was a expatriate Aussie, went over and made a mark in not one of the sports you will think, not NFL, gridiron, and not What's the other big
Basketball.
sport? Not basketball, but the next one down. Perhaps it might be more popular than both those.
It's an American game, isn't it?
It is almost exclusively an American game, but probably the most popular American sport ahead of those two. We'll ask him, but it's a him. He's coming in, so we're ringing off now. But we've got other things to speak about that you'll sit here and listen to. So here we go.